Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Simply Trade Roundup. I'm back. I'm your host, Annik, and I, again, as always, have a host with me here. This is a little bit of a different episode, and I know I say that all the time, but it truly is because I have not covered this area of the industry. And the guest I have with me here today is Peter Tirschwell, who is a leading voice in global container shipping, logistics, and trade journalism, and kind of the driving force behind the TPM Conference, which we are going to focus on today. Peter, I want to say thank you so much for joining me today. There's so much to say about you because I read so much and such great things, and we could probably cover it all of this episode, but obviously we want to spend the time focusing on your conference. So first off, how are you doing today? And thank you for coming.
Thank you, Annik. A pleasure to be with you, and I'm doing great.
Fantastic.
I'm doing great. I'm sitting here in our company office in Lower Manhattan, and it's the holiday season, and it's all good.
Holiday season, and it's freezing over there. I know because my friends tell me and send me pictures. You know, it recently snowed, and it looked gorgeous, and now it's just, I think it's like, it was -6, they said. Well, I do it in Celsius, but that's pretty cold. That's pretty cold. That's in the negatives, so it's cold.
It has been a very cold December. This has been a proper holiday season weather, I would say.
Which is perfect, gets you into the season. So we are also in the conference season, which is coming up just in 2026. I would say January to April is nonstop conferences. One of them being TPM, which is happening in March. So TPM has been around. We kind of discussed this right before. This will be the 26th conference, which is just crazy. So, well, also, by the way, I want to thank you for the ongoing support of Simply Trade because, I mean, Simply Trade got to attend a TPM last year, I believe, or it was the year before. They just, I wasn't a part of it, but I know Andy and Lalo were there and they were just amazed. I mean, they couldn't believe how different this conference was from other ones and how many people they got to talk to, just interested in the topics, so open-minded, and it's truly been a pleasure for them. So I want to thank you for that. I also want to get into looking back for over 25 years of TPM. What was the problem the conference was supposed to solve? Why was the conference established in the first place?
So that's a great question, Annik. And, to be honest with you, it was the Journal of Commerce, which is the business I lead within S&P Global, is a newspaper. It was the daily maritime and trade newspaper of New York City. It went back all the way to the early 1800s, and in 2027, so in 2 years, it's going to celebrate 200 years. But in the year 2000, the daily newspaper had essentially collapsed, and because it lost all its advertising to the internet over a very short period of time. And all we had was, a group of us diehard shipping journalists and a website. And we said, to ourselves, either we're going to be on the unemployment line unless we come up with some additional revenue. So we said, well, why don't we create a conference whereby we invite our sources who we normally talk to on the phone, we normally interview, invite them up on stage and hit them with the hard questions in front of a live audience and address ourselves, as we always had editorially, to the shippers or BCOs, the Walmarts, the Targets, the Home Depots, the LL Beans, the Ace Hardwares, the John Deeres, you name them, all of whom ship large quantities of goods via ocean container and are using the ports and are affected by various forms of disruption. And why don't we hold the conference in early March, which is right about the time when the Trans-Pacific contracts are starting to be negotiated. So the contracts between, say, Walmart and the big ocean carriers tend to renew on May 1. It's a May 1 to April 30th annual cycle. And so in early March, everybody's trying to understand what's the situation with supply, what's the situation with demand, what's the situation with pricing, which ocean carriers and freight forwarders should we be making contracts with, which ports should we be routing our cargo through. And we provided a forum for that to occur around a totally editorially independent program. So no sponsors automatically get speaking roles. It's all us as journalists saying, we want to put a session on this topic for this reason, and we want this person to be the speaker. And the market understood from us, and I know I'm droning on, I'm sorry,
No, it's
but I'll
okay.
wrap.
It's very, it's very good.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just wrap it up and say the market understood from us that our program was a legitimate information program and not a sort of a forum for sponsors or advertisers to give a sales pitch, which is much less interesting to people than hearing, the leading economist, the former Federal Reserve chair, the carrier CEOs, the big shippers, the big port authority, leaders, all talking about the mechanics and the flow of containerized trade and what the issues are.
Yeah, no, I think that's so interesting because when you think about it, you really started this on just helping the industry out to make smarter moves, and it became to this. I would even say it's also an entertainment conference. I don't know why. I saw when I was watching some videos of the conference, I saw a helicopter, and it said TPM on there. They were at the TPM conference, and I guess I don't know if it was attendees got to go on those helicopters, but they were flying over the conference and flying over where it was held. I mean, it was insane. I'm like, okay, this is a humongous conference. It has to be. If they're having helicopters out there, flying over the ports, that's crazy. And it's so fun. Did you see that?
I heard about it, but I don't know anything about it. It was probably, somebody trying to, advertise their product or something.
Yeah.
But you mentioned something that's really important, which is the conference for every year except 2 years has always been in Long Beach, California, which is right basically smack in the middle of the largest containerized port gateway in the entire Western Hemisphere. That's the LA Long Beach Port Complex.
Yeah.
So it's the largest port in the US. It's the largest port in North America. It's the largest port in all of the Western Hemisphere as far as containerized trade go. So a lot of the people that come to the conference are using the opportunity of being there in order to visit port facilities, visit warehouses, visit rail intermodal facilities, places where they are doing business, people who are handling their cargo, to have meetings and to understand the issues. So there's a lot of that type of activity that takes place simply because the event is happening in the middle of a major port complex.
Wow, that's amazing. So 2025 has been a crazy year for everyone, for the trade and trade compliance industry, logistics, supply chain. And I know TPM is probably going to touch a lot on those issues. And so most of these companies have been under a lot of pressure. And they're going to the TPM to find opportunities to handle these pressures and find out a way to successfully move their business along. In your mind, what is the job TPM should be doing for BCOs, a carrier, or NVOs? What is it that you want them to get out of it?
Well, it's essentially, in a way, like a networking and information ecosystem, where what has happened over these 25 years is that or 26 years now, is that a very robust program, and you hit on it, Annik, creates an environment of ideas and an environment of open-mindedness and an environment of facts and an environment of forecasts and data. And what that does is it has seeded and, in a way, created a vast networking, relationship building environment where there are literally tens of thousands of meetings that are occurring around TPM. So people are going to TPM in order to understand what the shipping environment is going to be over the next year. What are the risks? What are the big things that could change? What are the areas of unpredictability? What the industry leaders are saying is going to occur, and then taking that back into their dialogue with their existing and potential business partners.
Yeah.
Do you see? It's all sort of kind of like fits together so that you walk out of there with, having a very good sense of what the pulse of the market is. And number two, having, in a way, refreshed your relationships, making sure that your network is alive and well. that you see you know who to call, you know who you can lean on, you know who told you what about what their capabilities are in terms of their ability to support you, especially if things get tight. And that happens a lot in this world where one day there's a lot of capacity, the ships are not sailing full, the freight rates are low, and then bang, something happens, and then all of a sudden space is very tight. You have to call in favors. You have to rely on people who can really help you simply in order to get cargo loaded on a ship and to keep your supply chain running. And having those relationships in place and having your finger on the pulse of the market is very, very important. And that, I think, more than anything else, is what TPM offers to our attendees.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point on the attendees. How has the attendee mix changed over time, or also the level of conversations? Because I'm sure upper level, senior level executives are prone to show up now and just, I'm not sure how it has been over the years, but I feel like now they have to be involved because of what is happening in the industry. And it's just, their decision making. And how has that changed? How has the mix changed of the attendees?
Well, the one thing that certainly has changed is that there are a lot more shipper companies there. So in other words, there, a lot more of the retailers, a lot more of the consumer products companies, manufacturing companies, petrochemical, agribusiness, food, traders. So in other words, the buyers of transportation services, there were in the neighborhood of about 575 of those companies were represented at TPM in 2025. So that number has grown significantly. Another change that has occurred is, like I was mentioning before, where TPM started pretty much exclusively as a Trans-Pacific conference. Actually, TPM stands for Trans-Pacific Maritime Conference. That was the old name. We don't use that anymore. It's just like they don't use the International House of Pancakes anymore. They just call it IHOP.
Yeah.
and if you say the International House of Pancakes, they will say, we don't call it that anymore. Don't call it that. So it's the same thing with TPM. It's no longer exclusively a Trans-Pacific conference. We had right smack on about 50 countries were represented at TPM in 2025. Conversations are occurring around, the Asia-Europe market, the North America to South America market, Australia, New Zealand markets. In other words, the negotiations, the dialogue, the relationship building is occurring in the context of more than one ocean container trade lane. And so increasingly, it's kind of slowly but surely becoming more of a global event than a regional or a trade lane specific event.
And I want to touch on cost savings, because I know that that is a big thing in the industry. I mean, everyone is trying to save costs at this point, but there's also a lot of tariff uncertainty, which kind of makes it hard to plan from one day to the next. How do you think sophisticated shippers are responding, or are they looking for this information at your conference to make better decisions? Do you think that is a goal of theirs?
Definitely. And it's a goal of ours to provide those insights, because you're absolutely right. I mean, one of the things that happened when these massive tariffs were imposed this year is that companies were left with a huge tariff bill. Yeah. And to a certain degree, they could beat up their suppliers so that their inputs are at a lower cost. So that might save them a little. To a certain extent, they can raise prices on customers. So that might eat into the bill a little bit at both ends. Companies are faced with a very, well, depending on the company, depending on the industry, a unmitigated expense, meaning that they have costs that they are incurring that they were not able to mitigate through negotiations with suppliers or price increases. And so we are addressing that need because companies want to explore every possible opportunity in order to further reduce those costs. And that might be through transportation. It might be through making sure that you are exploiting all possible, customs and tariff opportunities, but also doing it legally so that you're not getting yourself into a legal gray area where, you could expose yourself to some sort of investigation. That's been a big concern this year. And so we have a lot on the program addressing these issues specifically.
Are you touching at all on technology, such as AI?
Yes. Yes, we have a whole section of the conference is called TPM Tech. It's led by Eric Johnson, who's our lead technology writer, and a lot of discussion about AI on that program, simply because of the AI is going to start moving very fast, and as soon as as soon as AI agents are perfected to be able to automate certain processes, guess what? They're going to get implemented. I mean, I was talking to an AI startup leader just within the last week, and they're talking about specific repetitive functions within ocean carriers that in order to have the staff in place and in order to be able to respond in a timely manner to customers, they have tens of millions of dollars in annual expense, the vast majority of which is going to get wiped out within 2 years at most. And so everybody, I think, understands that AI is going to come fast and hard into this industry, and exactly how you manage that and how you take advantage of it, because, God forbid that your competitor is able to utilize AI and drive down their costs faster
Yeah.
than you. Guess what? That means they're more competitive in the market, and they're going to start stealing your business.
I think a lot of people are going to seek AI as a cost saving opportunity. I mean, I believe that's the number one reason. I just had another person last week on, and we talked about AI, and he's also a startup owner of an AI company on classification. And he said if just a company focus on one single thing they can optimize with AI, you save millions. I mean, you don't have to optimize your entire company just yet. AI is not there yet, even though it's growing so fast. But I believe that if you focus on one single thing and optimize it to its fullest ability, I mean, you're saving. And if your competitor is not doing it, just how you mentioned, yeah, you're going to be a little behind. So if we think about a company or people going to the conference, what are ways, a shipper can walk into TPN with a plan and walk out having created measurable savings or risk reductions? Like, how do they walk in there? What is their plan in the conference? What sessions should you attend? Because I know it's massive. You probably can't attend all sessions at once.
Well, correct. So having a plan is the best approach to going into TPM. So, Annik, you're absolutely right about that, and we advise attendees to build their plan, because there's only so many hours in a day. People are making great use of their time, in the sense that after there's many people who are sound asleep on airplanes leaving Long Beach going home, because the 4 or 5 or 6 days that they're in Long Beach is the most exhausting period of their year. But knowing which sessions to attend, knowing what time slots you have available, knowing who you want to meet, and trying to figure that out in advance in order to sort of maximize your own objectives. Like, you need to do this, you need to accomplish this, we need to resolve this, and go in there with specific problems that you have to solve. The conference program will help you in some ways, and also people will help you who might be able to provide the services that you need in order to resolve some issue. One of the things, for example, that has been greatly accelerated in 2025 is moving from China to other countries in terms of manufacturing sourcing.
Yeah.
It's, companies have basically said, look, China is too risky. I have to diversify. I don't know the state of the China-U.S. relationship. We don't know what the next tariff action is going to be or when it's going to come. So therefore, we need to relocate. Vietnam, Bangladesh, Cambodia, Myanmar, India, wherever it might be, all of that requires new business partners, new understanding, and that really is obtained through information and dialogue.
Yeah, I assume that's hard because I think things are shifting so fast. We thought India was going to be the perfect partner for people that are stepping away from China. And then India didn't seem like the perfect fit anymore. There was tariffs that occurred there as well later on. You could say anything at TPM, or you could have speakers touching on, various of topics. But how is the uncertainty? How do you navigate that? I really struggle thinking about that, because you we could be in one place this second, and then the next second it could all be thrown off. How do these, upper management or people that go to the TPM, how is that addressed, or how will they have the opportunity to figure that out?
Well, I think that you're absolutely right that this year has been an incredibly difficult environment for companies to operate in, because how can you make decisions when policy is so unpredictable? And so it's held back a lot of decisions, and it's held back a lot of volume, even because I don't know what the impact of all the tariffs on the, say, U.S. economy and on consumer spending is going to be.
I have only one more question after that. So we're gonna round it up here quickly, because I know we both have exactly our lives moves on. I hear myself, but it's okay. It's fine. So there's one more question. If there's one, you probably have the sessions already all planned out, and you know who's speaking. I mean, by now it's a huge conference, right? You have everything set. If there's one session or track you insist on attending, which would it be and why? I mean, I know it's so hard. I'm asking you for a lot here, but what do you?
I mean, I think definitely our keynote speaker this year is Janet Yellen, and she is a former Treasury Secretary and a former chairperson of the Federal Reserve. And the conversation that we're going to be having with her is all about tariffs and about global economics and really the fallout from this extraordinary change in policy that we saw this year, where tariffs in 1 year went from an average of 2% to an average of 17 or 18%, where they are now, with huge impact on companies and their supply chains. And where is this headed? What is going to be the economic fallout from this policy? Where is it headed in her estimation? And how is it that, from a big picture strategy point of view, companies need to be looking at this very, very different international trade landscape? And so that's going to be on Monday morning in the big room. And certainly that is going to be a session that is not to be missed.
Yeah. How many attendees do you have this year?
Well, I haven't checked the numbers, but I do know that in 2025, this year, we had about 4,500 attendees, and that we're on track on that to, grow it a bit. So it's, it's going to end up being that plus, a little bit of growth probably, because the event has been steadily growing. It hasn't been wildly growing or wildly collapsing or anything like that. It's just sort of slow, steady growth. So I would estimate, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Well, look, I think the conference is a premier global shipping event. I mean, it is a conference that a lot of people want to attend or sponsor at. I know there's lots of sponsors. So there's loads of opportunity for sponsors as well as for attendees, obviously. The conference, to our listeners, is happening March 1st through 4th, Long Beach, right?
Correct.
Yes. Oh my God, that'll be amazing. So hopefully, if our listeners have any questions, we will link some stuff down below, and you can also ask us and we can try to get you the answer. But are people still able to sign up for this?
Yep, they are. They just, all they do is Google up TPM container shipping. It'll come right up, and all the information is there.
Well, you heard it on this podcast first, or anywhere, because I see it all over LinkedIn as well. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to hearing lots about the conference and seeing where it goes this year, in 2026. But for now, I want to thank you so much, Peter. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I mean, maybe we should round it up afterwards and see what came out of the conference. Now, this is kind of, we're estimating what will happen, and you kind of told us what to look forward to. But afterwards, we're actually able to see what, people got out of it, how people were reacting to the session. So looking forward to that. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Annik. It was a real pleasure chatting with you today.
Yeah.